another day. So we've wrapped up with Thursday's trading. Let's have a look at what's going on next. How's the week going to end? What else is going to happen? Let's keep it on for now. Just like the tariffs, we're keeping them on for now. Just tuning in, this is episode 13, already 13 in. So let's see how it goes. This should be fun. This is the daily roast that we do. We're basically trying to see how things work out in the market now that we have a few things that have happened, a few of them that have gone up, gone down. Not sure exactly how things are working out, but at this given moment, you had the tariffs coming on, then they're coming off, now they're back again. Maybe they come off again in the Supreme Court ruling. I don't know, but what I do know is that the Supreme Court ruling is taking place today, most likely. From what I read was that on Friday they would be taking over the Supreme Court. So we're going to go all of those things. I'm going to go over some bit of Nvidia as well. What exactly happened, what's currently going on. We can actually take a look at that as well. And a few other random stuff. Could see heightened volatility coming in because of the amount of uncertainty that's currently there. You're seeing prices go up, prices go lower. You're seeing things where you're able to, in a way, look at the S&P 500 heading lower, few stocks heading higher. Nvidia, if not for Nvidia, I think the day would have been pretty much worse. We're also at a stage where we're trying to see where the Trump tariffs hold, whether they're holding in the court or no. Anyway, so make sure you guys go in, subscribe, put in your comments, put in your likes, do all of that, and then we continue with the show. This is episode 13, and we're going to break down the market today. We're going to break down Nvidia. We're going to break down the Fed Powell meeting that's been happening. So that's another thing that's been going on. Keep that in mind as well. That's something to go ahead and see, because from what we're able to see at this moment, we're looking at the Trump Powell meeting in a way just being something where Trump said, okay, you need to meet me, I need to talk to you. And Powell turned around and said, hey, listen, you got to figure out what your tariffs are. And there's so much uncertainty because of what you're doing. I will have to wait in order to make any decision when it comes to cutting rates. And Trump still does believe that Powell is a fool, but he does realize that he's not going to be able to fire him at this given moment because he's not sure if his tariffs are going to stay. So I think the tariffs for him are more important than if the Fed is going to be part of his narrative or no. Anyways, guys, so go ahead. There's a poll that's also on there. Go ahead and vote on the poll as well. What we're looking at is what's the biggest story this week. Is it going to be Nvidia's rally that continues, or is it going to be tariffs getting wiped out and back again? Friday could be interesting. Last trading day of the week, and you're also going to be seeing a lot of volatility that comes in because during market hours, we're going to be seeing whether the Supreme Court is able to uphold the district court or the circuit court, or are they going to be upholding the appeals court, which says basically that they're now looking at putting the tariffs back on. Whereas what happened in the earlier ruling was that you can't put these tariffs on. They're not going to work out that way. So you have to make sure that you're putting those in. Keep that in mind. So we should start pretty soon. Go ahead, put in your votes. I still do believe that Nvidia's rally will continue a bit. If you have good news, you're going to see some amount of rally taking place as well. Yeah. So we'll go over a few things. We'll go over Nvidia. We'll go over a few more things as there. Yeah, markets in general haven't been that great, so keep that in mind as well. They've just been a little lackluster today. After market hours also, trading's been pretty sad. We're just dead for a Friday, and looks like that's going to be the way it is. At this moment, the market's not trying to make a direction move. But let me tell you one thing, yesterday's move was a rally that took place based on news that the Trump tariffs were off, and then the fall that happened after that during market hours, that's not usually a good sign. So you could have some form of a pullback unless and until the tariffs are off again, right? I mean, there is so much uncertainty going on right now that no one really knows whether tariffs are on, tariffs are off. Will they be on? Will they be off? What's going to happen? I mean, it's anyone's guess at this moment. So no clue what's going to happen there. So rather not to better not to speculate on those kind of things, right? Let me see if I can get this unpinned. Is that going to be better? Let me actually try seeing if we can unpin this message and go ahead and maybe drop in a new one. Yeah, let me see if I can remove that. Do you guys see it now or not see it? What is going on? Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, that's the one that I wanted to put in. There you go. Now it looks better. There you go. Okay, so go ahead with your questions, whatever you guys want to ask. Anything under the sun, it's game, right? I'll try keeping this longer than usual, and let me try seeing if I can come pre-market on a Friday and also tune in live. That might be worthwhile as well. I'll be spending some time doing a research on a few stocks, so that's going to be taking up some bit of my time today. Well, let's see. This seems fun. I mean, we've been doing it for now about a month and we're continuously going. We're growing as well. So it's good to see that happen. We've been putting up a few shorts as well and a few videos about a firm, about the BNPL space, the buy now, pay later space. We've been putting up a few things about tariffs as well. That's been something that's been going on currently. We've been talking about those. So go check those out in the videos. You're going to be able to see them come up pretty often. I'm also thinking of putting in a longer term investing video, maybe a few videos based on a few investments that Buffett has been able to make over the years and how that has played out for him. So keep that in mind too, guys. It's going to be fun. Got a few things out here. So maybe we can start off with the Nvidia earnings because that was the thing that happened. So Nvidia did pretty much bang it out of the park. They had everything going for them when it came to Nvidia. Nothing seemed like it was going to be causing a problem to them. They pretty much had a literal banger of an earnings season. They went up in earnings 46%, and then even their data center revenue has been picking up. Their gaming business has been hitting an all-time high. So a lot of the games that currently are being played using NVIDIA chips is what's currently talk of town. In all essence, if you're a long-term investor, you should stay invested with NVIDIA, because if you do believe that artificial intelligence is going higher and going to improve from here by leaps and bounds, at the moment, the only company that can do what NVIDIA is doing or is required for the AI race to go crazy is NVIDIA itself. So still trades at about $138. It's not like it is, I mean, at the end of the day, it is an expensive, I wouldn't say expensive, it is a very hefty valuation in terms of $3.3 trillion. It's got a price to earnings of 43, but if you look at it from a forward basis, it's not that expensive. There are companies that are way more expensive with less revenue visibility. The only sword that keeps hanging on Nvidia is, will the capex cycle for all of these companies change someday, right? That's something that keeps hanging on Nvidia's head. Be that as it may, I'm not of the belief that Nvidia is going to not do very well. They seem like they're pretty sorted up with a lot of their orders. XAI, Oracle, Google, a lot of these companies, right? I mean, Microsoft, OpenAI, all of these guys are still going to need NVIDIA chips. With all of the production as well as the onshoring that President Trump is doing in America, you're still going to see a lot of it come back. A lot of them come in and buy NVIDIA chips, and that's just part of the game. So, something to keep a watch of. My belief, NVIDIA, we're going to see this year maybe new highs come through. My belief is still, if you can keep all this tariff noise away, it's still going to be heading higher and doing well. Not something that I would be worried about, especially when it comes to Nvidia. They are by far maybe the best stock that you can look for at this moment. Keep in mind, you have a few things. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about when it comes to Nvidia is also that if you do see their interview that they did on Bloomberg, he did come out and say that he's going to Europe to meet a few heads of state and a few leaders of companies. Most likely within the next week, you should be seeing some bullish news coming in for Nvidia, especially when it comes to these European countries. And that could be a way for Europe and America also to get their trade deal done, where you have these kind of deals that happen. So keep that in mind as well. That should be fun. If you guys have any questions related to Nvidia, anything, drop into the comments. Make sure to subscribe and go ahead and put in a few votes for the poll that we have right now. So I'm trying to see what happens to the poll. I want to see, we had a lot of people that selected that Nvidia would be ripping up 10% higher. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. It went up about 6 to 7% and then started coming lower. I wouldn't say that's only Nvidia's drawback. That turned out to be something that the market in itself also started heading lower. So don't think too much of that, because you did see almost a 2% drop from the top all the way back down to Nvidia, right? So you started seeing the US 100, the NASDAQ heading lower. You started seeing a lot of the stocks coming lower, because especially the concept being the Trump administration started saying that if the tariffs are on pause from the Supreme Court or from, not Supreme Court, the lower courts, they have other means in order to put these tariffs on. And a lot of the trade deals are still happening. So it's something that the market was euphoric about in the start, but it's not something that's going to affect the market in the longer term, right? Because the market has this uncertainty of tariffs any which ways. This just adds to the uncertainty with the concept that you're now looking at, or possibly some court saying no tariffs, another court, appeals court, a few hours later coming out and saying no, the tariffs can stay. And now they're going to go to the Supreme Court because they're going to appeal it there as well. If that happens, you're going to be seeing, it's more than likely that on Friday before markets close or during markets hours, you could possibly see some form of a situation where we could get a closure to whether the tariffs are on, off, or what is it exactly, right? What would be fascinating to see is if he has a majority of Republican judges in the Supreme Court, and how that plays out. My bet is the tariffs will stay. But you know what? The good part of all of this is that it does let us know that the rule of law and a few things around it can keep Trump within parameters that don't allow him to go crazy, like the way he went on Thursday with the EU tariffs. Like you go in and say, okay, 50% next week, which is technically Monday morning, we would be having a 50% tariff on EU products, right? And then exactly few days, like literally on the weekend, you come out and say, okay, no, I'm not going to be doing that. It's a privilege for me to allow them to continue with the 10% tariffs, and they've called and now they're working together. So they're also having a few things about Trump and what exactly is playing out. But in all essence, if you can, the only good part that I'm able to see out of this is that if Trump is able to work within a boundaries that the US Supreme Court comes out and states, saying you can't come up and say, okay, here's 50%, 3 days later, you can't just come and say, oh, everything's being tariffed, everything's not being tariffed. You can't do these things. It gives some form of certainty to the market, knowing that he can't just go ballistic, right? And when he does those kind of things, the market is going to rally higher. This is my bet, right? My opinion that markets do look like they're going to go higher purely because of the scenario that I see playing out, that the court in some form is going to come out and say, hey, work within these parameters, don't go crazy on it. And you can't just go out and keep pumping in saying, this is 50% tariffs, that's 20% tariffs, that's 300% tariffs. And in a way, the Chinese also came out and said that they now respect what the US Supreme Court said, because tariffs are not a win for anyone. I'm going to try finding out that tweet if I can, but that's currently been happening in the market when it comes to tariffs, right? So one good thing that happens with Nvidia and tariffs is that Nvidia has been, Jensen's pretty much been on the side of Trump all throughout. So it looks pretty much like he's getting all the deals when it comes to Saudi Arabia, when it comes to UAE, when it comes to Qatar, and maybe even these European deals that he's going to be working on in the coming week. So that could be pretty much a lot of revenue visibility for Nvidia, which could be a bellwether for holding on to the gains for the S&P 500 as well as the Nasdaq. They have about an 8% or a 7% holding on the Nasdaq, a 6% holding on the S&P. Keep that in mind, guys. Anyways, if you have any questions or anything, just drop in. Make sure to go ahead and hit the poll. I want to see what's going to happen with the poll results. And it's going to be a fun close to the week. My still bet would be we're going higher tomorrow, which is today, Friday. I still do believe that prices could head higher. And because I genuinely feel that at the end of all of this, even if the court comes out and says, okay, here's your tariff, right? The court is either going to come out and say, you can't put a tariff on anybody and this is not right. And if that happens, the market rallies. The courts are not going to come out and say, hey, you can do what you want, right? That's not the point, right? That's not going to happen. So the court's going to come out and say, here's the parameters within which you work, or you can't do it. If you can't do it, it's bullish. If you can do it, these are the parameters. You can't do this, you can't do that. If that happens, it's going to be a bullish again for the market. So my view is that you're still going to see the markets head higher. That's something that I'm of the view. If any of you do feel otherwise or feel the same, drop it into the comments. And also just drop in and say hi. So it wouldn't hurt to say that. Let me go and see if there's anything else that's been happening. So one of the other things that also took place today was Trump and Powell met on President Trump's invitation. So they had a chat. Basically, Trump told him that you need to lower rates. All the other countries in the globe and their central banks are lowering rates. Do the same. And basically what Powell paraphrasing turned around and said is that there's so much economic uncertainty, there's so much tariff uncertainty. If prices rise, X happens, Y happens. I can't be cutting rates in a scenario where inflation could pick up again. So no, I can't do that. And basically whatever's been spoken behind closed doors is now being spoken outside, because Trump's been calling him a fool, Trump's been calling him a lot of other stuff. But at this moment, it doesn't look like they have a feud going on, which is a good thing for the markets. The last thing you want is for Trump to come out and start saying something against Federal Reserve Chairman all over again. So it's something to watch, right? It's not been too much of a news day, just the fact of Nvidia's news coming in, Powell meeting Trump, the Supreme Court tariff that's been currently going on. Most likely, from what I do believe, is that today we should see some closure when it comes to the Supreme Court, and that should be bullish for markets, is my opinion. But some form of closure is always bullish, right? It just helps in knowing a lot of other stuff that's currently going on, because we have a lot of other things going on. So just removing some form of uncertainty helps. And you did see the market come all the way higher and then back down lower, because it started looking like, oh, the tariffs are off. And then it started looking like, oh, they have other ways of putting tariffs on. And the courts also said that, okay, it's now being appealed, and everything just started coming out, because obviously the Trump administration is not just going to take things lightly. They're not just going to, they've been working on these trade deals. They've been working on putting these tariffs together. A lot of these things for at least a few quarters now. So they're not going to be just putting their hands up and saying, oh, okay, if the court said we can't do it, we're not going to do it, and just carry on with life. That's not going to happen. Then again, you never know what the Supreme Court says. So keep that in mind. I mean, there is a silver lining in all of this, which is basically that if the courts do come out and say that you can't do it, it's bullish, exceedingly bullish, at least in the short term. But if they do come out and say it in a heartbeat, saying, you know what, you can do some things, these are the parameters, that's again going to be bullish according to me. So long story short, my bet is we should be higher, not just tomorrow, maybe for the week ahead as well. Now, will we see some form of pullbacks and all of that? That's just par for the course. Just trying to see some of the information that I currently have, some things that I just go on with. Trying to find out some of the stuff that goes on. So make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on the stocks that you believe are going to be doing well or not doing well. We can go over a few stocks, we can go over a few market ideas at the moment. And usually in May, stocks aren't supposed to be doing well, is what everybody tells us. There's this concept of sell in May and go away. That's not something that's been working out at this moment. So another thing to keep in mind, right? Don't follow a lot of the anecdotes. They don't usually work all the time. So sometimes you should just take a step back, look into a few things that you've been doing, and see that, you know, maybe there's more to this than just money. Let me actually see what's been currently going on, right? Yeah, so Nvidia closed at about 3% higher, almost 3.25%. It was almost up to about 6.5, because we hit a high of 143.49. We're up at 3.25. Now we're down about 1% in post-market, but don't hold on to any of that post-market stuff. By the time the market opens, it's going to be crazy. So I think we're also looking at PCE coming out today. That would be pretty fascinating when that happens. because the inflation numbers that come in for America would hold a lot of weight at this moment. All said and done, the PCE is expected to increase to 0.1. I don't see a reason why it's going to go higher. I see a reason why it could be lower, and if it is actually lower, that would be impetus for the Fed to speak about cutting, because inflation is on their mind. And keep that in mind, right? When inflation is on their mind, they're going to look towards these forms of ways in which they can. A bullish inflation print would just help the markets in knowing that a September or a later cut could now be preponed, because if prices are not going higher, yes, there is uncertainty, but in the June meeting, then Federal Reserve Chairman Powell could be exceedingly bullish, at least in his tone, if not in actual cutting of rates. Right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. Let me go over and see a few things. If we go and what else is happening in the markets at the moment. I did see crypto falling down a bit. I'm not sure I think it's just uncertainty that's playing out there as well. You're looking at 105,000 on Bitcoin. Might just be topping out here. It's already given us a good move all the way up to 112. Looking at it coming all the way lower. So that's been something it's about 6% lower from its high. So keep that in mind as well. You're looking at Solana at about 166 now. You're looking at XRP down as well. So there's been a few things that's been happening. These prices are lower, and not sure how this trade plays out, but just keep in mind that there could be a lot more that happens than what meets the eye when it comes to. We could even be topping out, right, for the markets. That's something that I've been thinking about as well. It looks pretty much toppish. Like when you don't break into all-time highs and you stay within the course, you could get toppy. That is something to keep a thought process on about as well. If you guys are able to hear me clearly, just drop into the comments and message me. Just let me know if you can see it. If you can hear me clearly and the audio is great and the video is great. I'm knowing a lot of other stuff currently. Knowing a lot of other stuff. Well, go ahead and subscribe and like and put a vote also on the community poll. I want to see where that ends up. That is something that I'm keeping my eye on at this moment. I know it's a Thursday night. We're not looking at too much on the market front. It's been a pretty dead day to that extent. So let's keep that in mind as well. Can't get every day going well for you, but you got to adjust, right? These are some things that you keep in mind. Let me just go and see a few other things, right? So that's the Trump Powell meeting that we had. If you guys have any questions, drop into the comments and I will get those on. I'm just going to do a few of my things. I don't want to just keep talking if you guys have no questions. So we went over the Nvidia thing, we went over the tariff turmoil, we went over the Trump Powell meeting. So one of the other things that I did see was also Goldman Sachs coming out and saying that they've seen a 30% year-to-date increase in large deals over 500 million. And that's indicating resilience in the M&A market. Obviously, they did come out and also caution about uncertainty stemming from tariff-related market volatility. But seeing Goldman Sachs coming and saying that there can be higher M&A, that's actually a bullish thing than a bearish thing. So something to keep in mind as well, right? Let me just go over a few more things. We got a bit of cleaning going on for the trees here. You guys want to see that? You can see that. All right, so they're just washing up the trees. putting up some water. So just cleaning the area for now. It's a nice place here. It's pretty at the moment. Seems like a postcard at the background, but yeah, this is how it is pretty much every day, and works for me. Uh, any questions, anything related to the market, just drop in. I'm going to let the chat do the ruling today because there's not been that much data, but because it's been something that's been going on, right? So make sure you put in all of your questions into the comments. I'll get over them one by one. I know it's a bit early that I started off today, so do your bit. You can subscribe, and once you subscribe, then I do this pretty much at 7:30 p.m. Eastern every day. So you can join in on an everyday basis. You'll get a link as well. So do what needs to be done, guys. Just go ahead and subscribe. And we're trying to get to that 100 subscribers also. So that's just something that's going to keep me going. I'm literally doing this for fun, right? I mean, this is not a way that I'm going to make any money off or any of that. So I'm literally doing it for fun. We would have anyways have done this for a few people. So I just thought of doing it on a smaller global basis, if that's what it means. But it's just like, ask me your questions. I can maybe give you an answer which is a bit different to how people think in general. So go ahead. I mean, comment, subscribe, do whatever, like, and put a not shit, sorry, put a vote on the poll. That's what I'm looking forward to. The polls are fascinating. That helps me know what the market's currently thinking. I mean, just even if it's just 10 votes, right? It's something. It's a very small sample size, but it's something. And we also go over and see what's happening. Barclays has agreed to purchase 100,000 Microsoft Copilot licenses as shared in a company town hall Thursday. That's tens of millions in alien revenue at a list price for Microsoft. So that's what I'm saying. There's so much of AI bandwagon effect that's going to come through. It's just growing and growing and growing. Now you got to be a bit smarter and play the longer game and not this short term jumping around. Germany plans to put a 10% digital tax on tech giants. I'm not sure how that goes down with all of the EU trade deals and all of that, but I think, you know what, these are just all negotiation tactics, right? They're just doing all of this to like get something more from that side and get something lower from their side, reduce their tariffs for yours so they can get some more tariffs there, keep getting, it's like you go 10 steps ahead to come back a few 4 steps, but you're going 14 steps ahead because you just want to come back a little bit more. So this just becomes something that the administration is going to be like, oh, you can't do that. Okay, if I can't do that, if I can't put a 10% tax on Meta and Google and digital services, can I put I'm not going to do this for you as well. And then America's going to be like, okay, let's move on that. It's all pure negotiation. And something that Trump came out and said, even on the CNBC question when he was asked about the tax stuff, where it said that Trump always chickens out. At the end of the day, it is negotiation, and he clearly stated that. So, for all those that thought this was going to be the end of all of it, it's not really. And in all seriousness, guys, I mean, however bad yesterday in terms of people expecting a bigger move in the markets, to be honest, we're still just 4.5% away from the all-time high. We would have been maybe 2% away from the all-time high as of yesterday if we were at the highs in pre-market, but you're not going to get everything, right? So sometimes some form of a pullback is not bad at all. It helps the market in moving higher with some more amount of buyers once you start getting in better news and you start heading higher. So that's something to keep in mind as well, because you're going to look at at the moment, you're seeing a 54-point drawdown on the US 100 in the aftermarket, so futures. I don't really see it as anything incredible. It's just par for the course. I mean, have we come down lower from a high? Yes, we've been coming from 2.5%, right? I mean, I think we gained 2.5% just on Wednesday, Thursday put together. We went all the way from 21,250 to 21,800. Now we're back there. So basically, what happened on Wednesday, we're just giving that back on Thursday. We're coming back to square one with better Nvidia earnings, with, I am guessing, a better tariff outlook as well. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Let's get over the first question. Kevin, hi, nice to see you in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Let me just get the question. Do you think tomorrow we have a sell-off again? I don't think we would have a sell-off. My bets would be off for a sell-off. So a definition for me in sell-off would be like a lower than, I would say less than a 1% is not a sell-off for me. Maybe a 2% would be a sell-off. I don't think we'll be 2% down. I actually do believe we could be flat to maybe a percent down, if not higher. If the Supreme Court does come out and say something related to these are your boundaries, President Trump, you can't go outside that, that creates certainty. Markets could rally on that news. I don't believe the Supreme Court is going to come out and say, oh, we're sticking with what the District Court and Circuit Court have said and you cannot be putting any more of your tariffs. I don't think that's going to happen. So my belief is there will be some form of certainty that comes in around tariffs. And I also do believe the market is beginning to build a 10% floor. So the 10% floor is going to pretty much be something that's the 10% tariff rate floor is what I meant, Kevin, is going to be bullish as well, because the markets don't really care about anything other than certainty and uncertainty. Long story short, my bet, I don't think it's going to be a sell-off. I think a lot of people are selling, considering that, oh, this could be a topping out scenario. Could very well be. I could be completely wrong as well. I don't see that happening, Kevin. It's something that I'm just not sure. I think we are already in some form of a pullback. We're down about 2.53%. But I don't see us going down 4-5%. Neither do I think tomorrow we're going to be seeing a 2.5, 3% drawdown. Now, all of this is, unless and until, the Supreme Court comes out and says, hey, you know what? Or you think 10% slow, I think you should go for 20%. And Trump is like, I like the Supreme Court. And, just because the Supreme Court's given me a free hand, I'm going to put a 40% tariff on everybody. I mean, you never know, but I don't see that happening at all. I think they've learned their lesson. They went a little too close to fire. They're going to stick away from that. I hope I answered your question, Kevin. I mean, keep going with those questions. I'm right here to answer them and help you out as much as I can. Just want to give you some form of an insight as to the way I think. It's not necessarily the only way to think, but and honestly, I do believe that the Nvidia rally will continue, right? I mean, whoever voted for that, I still do believe that the Nvidia rally will continue. And I still think maybe in the next few months, you will see all-time highs coming in, not just for the S&P 500, but also for the NASDAQ as well as for Nvidia. Yes. You're always welcome, Kevin. Always welcome. So we do this, Kevin, on a pretty daily basis at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So go ahead and subscribe, and you can join in whenever you want. Drop in your questions whenever. I just do a few of my stuff, and then I come in for the comments, and if there's anything, I go ahead and answer them. And I think the Trump-Powell meeting also has been pretty bullish. Like, when I think about it, them not meeting each other was an issue. When they meet each other, they can sort out their differences behind closed doors and not throw their dirty linen out on Twitter. Keep that in mind as well. A lot of people have started to think, oh, Trump, Powell. I think, why not just meet it out, sit behind closed doors, talk it out, do whatever you have to, even if it's just talking about what they've been talking on Twitter. It doesn't matter. Just talk it out rather than talking it out on Twitter, because the more you talk on Twitter, the more uncertainty gets created. And the more uncertainty that gets created, the last thing you want is for more of this nonsense to keep going on, right? If I could have one thing in this world that I could choose, is certainty. Nothing else. An uncertain future is worse to live in. So that's the problem with the markets, right? You have an uncertain future, the markets are like, okay, I'm out of here. I don't want to be doing this. and it craters and falls, and you start seeing sell-offs on a daily basis, right? So that's something that you don't actually would want. Let me get this question from Kevin again. The courts and Trump will fight for a week or two on this issue, but I hope the end game is China opens back up to Nvidia. So you know what, Kevin? That's one of the things. What you're saying is what I also did speak on the live yesterday. I think the I think the biggest beneficiary in all of this will be the semiconductor space. I think the China and US trade deal will involve a lot of semiconductors also, which today they're saying, oh, it's security, or it's this, or it's that. What Jensen's been saying, even in the interviews that he's been giving, as well as on his earnings call, is that if we don't sell to China, the only person losing in this battle is America. So for us to win, we need to be able to sell our chips to China so they don't make their own chips, because Huawei can do a lot of what it wants to do and can get to a very rapid pace of trying to get as close as it can and shortening the gap between the speed with which Nvidia goes ahead as well as Huawei goes ahead. So China opening up its business to Nvidia, I think it's going to happen. I also do believe it'll be two things that bring this China and US trade deal together: Nvidia and its semiconductor chips, and the second story being TikTok. So these two things are just going to solve itself out. In my essence, I believe the Chinese and Americans are easier to deal with. They're going to find their way together. It's very simple. You know, it's the biggest buyer and the biggest seller of a product don't really fight too long. They might shout at each other, but they're not going to fight too long, right? And the courts and Trump fighting for a week or two, I actually do believe it's going to end today. I honestly do believe it's going to end today. The case could pretty much go to Supreme Court today, and because of a matter of such high importance in terms of economic, it could be the weekend maybe. I honestly believe it's par for the course. By Monday morning, my bet is I think the Supreme Court is going to come out and say, hey, you know what? They're going to play it very diplomatically. They're not going to go on Trump's side completely and say that, hey, you know what? Here's the case. You're not going to be able to put any tariffs on anyone. They're going to come a little bit on this side and say, hey, Trump, you can do what you want, but within a limit. That's going to be exceedingly bullish for the market. Monday morning, I still do believe that if that's the case, what I do believe, Monday to the next week could be a bullish week as well. And usually we could head into all-time highs. Who knows? All right, my bet, Kevin. I mean, I like your forward-looking thought process, the way you're looking at it in terms of it could be a week or two and China opening back to Nvidia. That is something that I keep in mind as well. I actually do believe the Nvidia thing is going to play out pretty well. Especially with Elon heading out of the White House, it looks like it's going to be a Jensen love story with the Trump White House at the moment. That's something that I'm keeping in mind, right? Let me get over the next one. Sharik, hi, nice to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. How's the weather wherever you are? The weather here is pretty cool. Markets are okay. Their markets are dull, so we can't do much about that. But keeping in mind the stuff that I've been saying about Elon, right? Elon leaving from the White House on whatever note that he's leaving. No one really gives a damn about this fact that is he leaving on a bad note or a good note. No one cares, right? We're all here to make money. Just something. Oh, sorry, but if you guys can just drop into the comments, maybe Sharik or Kevin, if you can hear me clearly, if everything's great. I don't want to be talking and you guys not hearing. So coming back, I'm just going to continue. If you can just put it in the comment. Is that okay? Great, Kevin. Thanks for that. Elon leaving the White House, meaning now he's not spending that much time there. If he's not spending that much time there, the only business leader that I believe is as close at this given moment to President Trump is Jensen. He's been with him all throughout on Saudi Arabia, public market CEO. I'm not accounting for Sam Altman at this moment. Keep him aside. Because at the end of the day, whatever Sam Altman buys, Jensen's providing. No one else is providing whatever Sam Altman's needs are. Keep that in mind that Jensen being close to President Trump, working his way around President Trump, and getting all of these Middle Eastern deals done, that's going to be something to keep a very close eye on, because that could maybe mean that Nvidia could be a $4 trillion company very soon. We could see 160, 170 handle on it as well in this year itself. Because if there's one guy that currently has President Trump's love, literal love at this moment, is Jensen. No one else at this moment. And right, Kevin, like I'm pretty sure, I mean, it looks like Tim Cook is cooked, but you know what? If I had a gun to my head and I had to make a choice, I still think Tim Cook would come out winning on this one. He's just going to get something done, right? I mean, speaking about this, I think Sharik knows about it. I was talking about it a few days back. And, you know, when the Apple news came out and they were all like, oh, the world's going to end for Apple because he's going to put a 25% tariff and all of that, and he's not going to be able to make it in another country. I think, you know what he's going to do? He's going to call up Trump, or he's going to sit with his finance guys and be like, hey, you know what, let's spend $1 trillion instead of 500 billion. Instead of spending it in 4 years, let's do it in 10 years. Let's give him a big number because he likes big numbers. And let's just say that, you know what we're going to be doing is now we're just coming in to build AI servers, chips, some of these other things, helping with it. Because I did see one thing. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, came out and said that it would be great that if Apple could help out in their supply chain for AI servers and all this. And that's when it came into my head that, you know what, they don't really want to put this tariff on Apple. They just want Apple to come to the party and be part of this whole game where it's saying, you know what, Apple's also building in America, because they just don't want these news to be circulating saying, oh, Apple's only building in India, or Apple's only building in China, or they're only building it in Vietnam. They're not doing anything here. And Apple's a hardware play at the end of the day, right? I mean, they are a software game, but they are a hardware play more than most other companies within the Mag 7 are, if you exclude Tesla. Keeping that in mind, I do think Tim Cook's going to get his way, right? I mean, Kevin goes around and says, I do too. I think there's upside, and people continue to sleep on Apple. You're right. And you know what the good part is? The more they sleep on Apple, the lower it goes, the better the price gets. Let me just do this quick math, right? You're looking at a company like Nvidia, that's about 10% away from its all-time highs, right? You're looking at something like Google, which is about 20% away from its all-time highs. And given all of the search dominance nonsense that's been going on, saying that, you know, they're going to lose their search and all of that, that's going to happen. People don't realize they have Google Cloud, YouTube, Waymo. They have 1,000 other things that are going on. They own up 10% on Starlink as well. Or sorry, 10% on SpaceX, which owns Starlink. So they have that as well that's going for them. A company like Microsoft, which is doing phenomenal, is about 2% away from its all-time highs, right? Here's the kicker, guys. Apple, all said and done, literally is 30% away from its all-time highs. Now think about that for a second. If I gave you an option to decide in the world that you could enter a place where of the Mag 7, excluding Tesla, I usually don't like putting Tesla into the Mag 7, at least for now when it comes to the AI trade. Even if you do put in Tesla, right? You're able to choose only 7 of these stocks, and you had to choose one. And out of that, you're looking at Apple being down 30%, while all of the others, Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, all of these being down 26, 10, and 3 respectively. I mean, who in their given world is not buying Apple, right? I wouldn't give up my iPhone for anything, like in all seriousness, or the ability to use an iPhone. I would give it up for a better iPhone, but just as a concept, I'm not going to be doing that. So Apple at 30% lower, I think it's a great play. Maybe 40% lower if you have a larger pullback in the market. Even better. What else do you want, right? Let me get over. Jason, nice to see you, brother. I know we spoke about this as well, right? I was actually of the belief, and you know what? I was actually of the belief that the market could go higher, but didn't work out, right? It lost all of that gas right before the market opened. You were absolutely right, man. I have to give you kudos to you on that. I did see Nvidia go up, and you know, I remember I was checking Nvidia and it was hitting 143 in the overnight markets, and then it came lower back towards 140, stayed there, and then it started moving to 139. I think when it opened, it was near 140. moved towards 143. And I was like, oh, looks nice. And that's why I'm a very shitty short-term trader, right? And I'll be honest with you on that. I've made my money doing it, so I don't want to say that nobody should do it. But at the same time, Nvidia did look like it was coming down. But you know what, Jason? Another thing that I keep in mind is a lot of that gas that was being lost in the market was because of this euphoria that was unwarranted about the Trump's trade tariffs just being removed because one court somewhere decided to say it's over. Like I'm saying, even if the Supreme Court comes out and says something saying you can't put these tariffs, right? No more can you put these tariffs. The market would rally, but I still don't believe that the tariffs are going to be off. He's going to find another way. There's so many other sections within the code that he could put out. He'll just come out and say, okay, not a national security issue, fair enough, I'll remove it and put it through another section. And he'll put it on particular specific products. So this is what the court said, and a lot of people don't realize this. The court clearly came out and said that you can't go in and put a blanket tariff on everybody. Okay, that's what they came out and said. But they did say this, that, and I'm giving you non-court language, right? Because none of us are going to be able to understand any of that crap. But yeah, you can't go out and put a blanket tariff on everybody, but you could go specific industry-wise, specific sector-wise and put those tariffs, and that doesn't come under the purview of us trying to tell you not to do it. So technically, they told them what to do. So I'm pretty sure the Trump administration is working on that number, saying, okay, that's the case. We don't need to go out and just say, Europe, everything that comes in from you, 50% tariffs. Let's just be like, the 50 things that come from you is going to be on tariff, right? So could one and well be the same thing, but let's be honest, in all of this, the essence is bullish, at least for me, in my opinion. Because if you're going to be telling me that, hey, you know what, I can't put a tariff on everything that comes in and I need to be specific, he's not going to go down and put 100 sectors and put tariffs on all of them. He's going to choose the big ones and then attack those. So is 70% of all of the products that come into America being tariffed at 50% better than 100%? Absolutely, right? So that would be bullish for me when it comes to the market. Let me get over what Kevin's saying. Tomorrow, how many 401k payments are going to go into the S&P 500, which buys 5.5% of Apple? Absolutely. But you know what? You still could be lower just because of this whole concept being that his tariffs are on, and gives him more impetus to. The stronger Trump gets when it comes to Trump tariffs, the weaker Apple gets when it comes to trying to negotiate that 25% proposed tariff that Trump may or may not put. So, but I don't see a better politician or a diplomat better than Tim Cook. You know what? I'll take that back. I actually think Jensen's a better diplomat at this given moment, But I also do believe Tim Cook will figure out his way and get that done. So go ahead and keep throwing your questions in. I just want to check one thing pretty quickly, is what happened to the bond yields? Because from what I saw before the markets closed was the bond yield started heading lower. So yeah, we're hitting 4.4. And if you do go and see, we are about at 10-day lows on the 10-year yield. Keep in mind, the 10-year yield was something that was about to go and break 52-week highs and head higher towards its 5% level. We're now seeing that heading down to 4.4. What happens if we start breaking the 4.4 and coming lower, breaking the 4.3.85, which is the 200 MA, right? The 200-day moving average. Maybe you see a 4.2 handle. Is everyone going to be talking about the 10-year yields then? I don't think so, all right? That's not something that's in my purview. At this moment, I'm not of the opinion that that's going to be happening. Anyways, for all of you that's joining in, go ahead, put in your questions. Charik, I'm going to get to your question in a second. Make sure to subscribe and go ahead and vote. I want to see what happens. We got about 4 votes. We still believe NVIDIA's rally is going to continue. That's a good thing. I'm on the same boat. I still do believe NVIDIA's rally is going to continue. Let me get the question from Sharik Lol. He's going to find one way or another. He's not someone who will give up very easily. Yeah. You know what, Sharik? Apple is such a large part of the American ecosystem that him getting his way would pretty much be a given, right? There is no way that I do believe that the detriment of American exceptionalism in American companies is going to be the reason that Donald Trump is going to be successful in whatever he plans to do. You cannot go out and hit your best performing American tech companies if you want America to do well. It's just plain and simple, and President Trump knows that. This is all plain negotiation, trying to get Tim Cook to come to the table and say, you know what, my mistake. Let me go and make my iPhones there, sell it in America. I'm going to make something better here, right? Plain and simple. That's what's going to happen. They're just going to sort their stuff out and get that done, all right? Kevin goes around saying no cuts this year is my guess. You know what, buddy? If there are no cuts, my bet is you're going to see 6,500 to 7,000 on the S&P 500 if we don't have cuts. A lot of people don't realize this, that we don't need cuts for the market to go higher. We need policy certainty. Policy uncertainty is what causes markets to drop, right? That's the thing, that's the bad one. So, no cuts this year, trust me, is a very bullish scenario. What it means is that nothing's failing in the economy. Inflation, according to me, is staying where it is. It's not cratering higher, because if it craters or starts ripping higher, you're going to see interest rate hikes, right? That's not going to happen, according to me at least. And growth staying steady, because from all of the FactSet data that I did come out and see, a lot of people were expecting companies to pull guidance. A lot of people were expecting companies to not even give out guidance in terms of pulling, but not even raising guidance. A lot of companies did come out and raise guidance. A lot of companies did come out and beat their expectations as well as give outlooks, not just for the quarter ahead, but for the year ahead as well. So, not sure where a lot of people are getting this bearishness from, but the bearishness is actually a bullish sign. So, keep that in mind. You don't want to be caught in that storm of wanting rate cuts, because if you do start wanting these kind of rate cuts, you are also going to want a lot of things to go wrong in the economy. So I think if people start thinking from this concept that rate cuts are not something we need, you know what's the most bullish thing, right? Let me make this simple. Federal Reserve Chairman, during his next meeting, the July meeting, Jackson Hole, comes out and says, the economy is strong, inflation is lower, we're not cutting, is because we have uncertainty ahead, but everything at this moment looks great, right? He's not going to say that. But if he does even partially be dovish, because he can't come out and keep saying, oh, inflation can pick up, inflation can do this. He's not going to do that, because it's taken time for inflation to come towards his target, and it looks that way. So the Fed being dovish is one thing, and the Fed being dovish and cutting is another thing. Dovish and cutting is not what I want. I want dovish itself. Let's keep the interest rate where it is. Use that firepower of interest rate cuts when we are in a scenario that it's required. Okay, a 0.2, the Fed's not going to cut 0.5, 0.75. The Fed's going to cut 0.25. 0.25 makes no goddamn difference. No difference at all. All right? Absolutely zero difference. What is better is for the 10-year yield to come 0.25 lower. We were at a 4.6 handle on the 10-year. That's why I went down to the 10-year to check that chart. 4.6. You're looking at 4.4. That's a 20 basis point drop. You'd rather get the 10-year lower than get a cut from the Federal Reserve. If I had to close my eyes and not look at any of this, and you guys told me that, okay, you wake up a year later and what do you think the S&P is going to be? My question to you would be, I want to know what the 10-year bond yield is at. If the 10-year bond yield still has a sub 4.75 handle, you're going to see the S&P 500 at 6,600, exactly where Kevin is saying it's going to be at, and way higher maybe possibly, right? You are going to start seeing that. One of the things that gets pulled out first in a weakening economy is digital ad spending. I was going over the earnings call for the trade desk, for Meta, for Google, right? None of that digital ad spending is reducing. These companies are printing. Digital ad spending is the easiest thing to pull out, right? You just go into Instagram, you go into YouTube, stop your ads, it's press a button, done, finished, game over for them, right? That's why in 2022, you saw them coming lower and prices coming lower for Meta and all these other companies. It's not stopping. So, which is why you're seeing companies. Look at something like the trade desk, right? $50 stock today trades at 74. You're looking at a 50% increase in that stock. So no reason for me to start believing this fact that economy is weakening, because the economy is strong. Do I believe that it can get stronger? Here's something that I was thinking about. A lower 10-year bond yield makes people refinance more on their mortgages, makes home sales increase, makes construction jobs improve, makes things like pending home sales that have been pending for a while start doing well, and a lot of things start basically getting, which are cyclical in nature, start improving with a lower 10-year bond yield. People have more money to spend because now when you refinance, you have a little more money in your pocket because your monthly payments reduce, your mortgage payments start dropping. These kind of things are bullish for the economy. Where does that money go in? That money is not going into people buying treasuries. That money is going to go into pretty much equities, because what else do you do? Where else are you going to put that money? Consumer spending has been great. Consumer confidence, which was at 85.6, which got obviously re-rated for the previous month, which has now jumped to 95, 98, which is one of the greatest numbers that I have seen in a while. What a jump from 85 all the way to 97, 98, right? But at 85, the consumer confidence was at the same level as that of April 2020. Now, let's be honest, guys. In April 2020, we were all thinking which one of us is going to pop out, right? In April 2025, what we're worried about is an iPhone becoming 2,500. People dying versus the iPhone being 2,500. We got two different issues here. So look at it holistically. It's not something to worry so much about, right? Let me just get to Kevin's question. Am I into crypto, BTC, ETH? Nobody, I'm not. It's something that I don't understand too well. It's something that I stay away from. I look at it from a risk appetite point of view. I like seeing what cryptos are doing because it helps me see where equity markets, the risk form is, right? Something that I was talking about when I just went live today was this concept that you're seeing 112,000 on the BTC coming down to 106, and people, losing sleep over it and looking at something that is more than usual in terms of prices heading lower. I'm like, you know what? It was the first thing that moved up as well in this rally that's happened. We saw all-time highs on BTC coming first. So not something to lose sleep over. I actually do believe that we're going higher. If the S&P is going to be going towards 6,600, like Kevin and I do think about, and higher from there, I think 120K, not too far for BTC. 150K, maybe not, but 120K, yeah. And that is something that I do actually believe. I'm not sure about XRP and Ethereum and all of that, but you know what? It's all a risk on sentiment. If risk starts coming back in, liquidity starts coming back in, people would put money back in, right? There's still so much money lying around in cash, even after the April sell-off. So much money lying around in treasuries. You need some form of that money to just come back in. And that's just going to be bullish for the markets in whatever ways you look at. All right. So go ahead, guys, just make sure you guys are subscribing and go ahead and vote as well. That's something that I'm looking at as well. We got votes as of now that basically say Nvidia is going to continue to rally. I still do believe that. I still do think that Nvidia has got more gas. It will head higher. That's something that I'm looking at as well. Let's keep in mind. Let's go see if there's something more that's happening in this world. And that's, you know what, it's tough for me to be bearish when you have an economy whose earnings are growing at such a pace. This quarter's results were supposed to be, they were not supposed to be affected by tariffs, but you know what, guidance should have been worse. And from whatever, I would have been through almost 50 to 100 earnings calls, maybe not 100, maybe 50 to 75 earnings calls. None of those seemed remotely bearish to me. A few here and there, you look at a Walgreens or you look at something. Out of 8 companies that pulled guidance, right? One of them was Walgreens. That's because they went and got bought out by a private equity company, so they had to do it. The remaining 7, some of them retailers, some of them here, some of them there. It's not too much. You can't lose sleep over the fact that 7 companies in such a wide universe have basically pulled guidance because they have their own issues. I think you must be getting a few companies that pull guidance any which ways. So don't worry. I mean, it's a bull market, right? It is. April was a bear market, but we're now in a bull market. So it's better to think of things as bulls rather than to think of things as bears. It doesn't make sense. Then again, one of the things I was talking to Jason yesterday as well. If you do believe that you start getting worried about market movements, you should take some risk off. You don't need to be 100% invested. And if you believe that at 20% cash positions or any of those things, and you're looking at something where prices might go lower, maybe take some risk off. It's not too much, right? It just gives you better sleep at night. That's more important than anything else. Kevin says, good chatting with you, buddy. First time listener, now subscriber. Thank you so much. Look forward to more. Yeah, so we do this on a 7:30 p.m. Eastern basis on a daily basis. I try doing it on a Saturday, Sunday as well sometimes, unless and until I'm a bit off. You'll be able to, so what you should do usually is, for everybody that's joining in, is subscribe and do that bell icon thing or whatever it is, because it's going to basically give you a notification every time I'm going live. Some days I try over the weekends to just get some time and read a few books. One of the books that I'm reading right now is Buffett and Munger Unscripted. You guys should have a look at it. It's a pretty fun book. A friend of mine's reading Investing with Anthony Bolton. Fabulous guy, fabulous investor. Have a look at that book as well. I don't necessarily want to keep this only about, okay, how do we make money? How do we do that? I just want to keep it in a way where we think differently. As a community, we come together and think differently rather than just thinking as a crowd in terms of, oh, is it bearish? Is it bullish? Is it bearish? Is it bullish? If everyone's being bearish, sometimes being bearish also makes sense. But let's dig into it and try seeing if there's more gas to the pedal in terms of, if everyone's getting so bearish, maybe we're not supposed to be getting that bearish, right? At the end of the day, this is a game of demand and supply. So keep that in mind. You basically tune in on 7:30 p.m. Eastern every day. I try doing this over the weekends as well. Some days also, maybe today. Yesterday I was not able to do it in the afternoon, which is American evening or American late morning. Sometimes I sit and I do my work and I just switch the YouTube live on. And if you guys join in, then drop in your questions and I'll reply. I'll just try removing the background noise and reply to you guys on chats, or I'll just reply to you guys with this expensive mic that I decided to buy. Hopefully you guys are able to hear me more clearly than before. But yeah, so that's more like it. I think today being Friday, most likely I will go in and do a YouTube live again, pre-market, maybe like in about 6 hours, and just go through a few things that's happening. Nothing new is going to happen. It's just easy for me to do my work and then also speak to you guys about something that's currently going on. Kevin, it was great chatting with you. Hope you join in for the next lives as well. Looks forward to some of your questions, and great questions, to be honest. Let's go. Let's see. Yeah, that's what FactSet also did come out and say, that the annual bottom-up EPS actual and estimates are at the highest level. So for 2026, we're estimating higher levels than 2025. Why do you want to be bearish? For what? Just because it sounds smarter? You don't need to sound smarter. You just need to make more money. Anyways. So usually in May, right? I mean, I don't usually hold a lot of weight to these kind of things of anecdotal data which says, okay, if I've been higher, greater than 5% in May, how do the next 12 months look? On an average, they look up about 20%. I would take another 20% rally on the S&P 500. Absolutely, right? Who wouldn't? I would take it. Would I take a 35% rally or the 40% rally on the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq? Maybe not. You know why? Not because I don't want to make money, but because the crash that will happen post that massive rise will be so bad that you will not know what hit you. It's easy to sell when prices are heading lower because you want to protect your capital. It is very tough to sell when prices are heading higher and higher. 9 out of 10 times, most retail investors as well as investors in general look to buy when prices are going higher. Cutting your gains, right, which is one of the toughest things in this world to do. If you have a long-term mindset of over 10 years and you don't require the money to live off, don't even look at these things. I mean, then it doesn't even matter. But if your mindset is more towards the concept of trying to play a year or 2 years games or 3-year games, swing kind of positions, which is like not a 3-month game, but a longer than that game, sometimes you should look at these kind of things because, at the end of the day, we all have bills to pay. And sometimes it's easy to take that risk off the table when the markets are going higher. You don't need to always be 100% invested. My view is if prices are falling and falling and falling, like we've been seeing in April, you should be 100% invested. You might fall 20% from wherever you were, but the rally that you'll see, you're never going to be able to catch that. Don't time the market. It's a very stupid thing to try doing that. Spending time in the market is more important than timing it. Whoever said that is one of the smartest individuals in the world. I think Charlie Munger it was, but there is nothing more honest about that statement than it just sums it up to this, right? The bigger money is made in waiting, not in the buying and selling. Plain and simple, right? Sometimes you should make those trades where you do see prices go higher. Sometimes you should also make these trades when you want to play like I'll give you an example, right? You wanted to trade Nvidia earnings. Let's say you believed it was going to go higher, right? You want to buy some options or you want to buy equity or any of that, you should do it. You should have that feeling of having some fun. But you know what that should be? Less than 1% of your net worth. Less than 1% of your book. So if you have a $100,000 book or a $10,000 book, maybe put 100 for a $10,000. For a $100,000 book, put 1,000. For a $500,000 book, put 5,000, right? You make some money, take it and go. Remember never to convert a trade to an investment. Always remember that, and do not convert an investment to a trade. If the story changes, it's a completely different story, but very rarely do stories change about great companies. So, like in today's day and age, right? Apple at 33%, 40% lower, at 33, 34% lower, right? Guys, I mean, think about it as in what kind of company would you ever want in your portfolio than Apple that's down 30%, right? I mean, maybe we're not buying the iPhone 16, maybe we're not buying the 15 if we have the 14. Someday going to be buying the 17. What are we waiting for? 17, 18, 20, whatever it be. We're someday going to be buying an Apple iPhone. That's important, right? When you buy an Apple iPhone, okay, I buy an iPad, I buy a MacBook, I buy an AirPods, I buy all of that. I get Apple's services together, all of that put together. It's a behemoth. They got money beyond imagination, right? And maybe Buffett sold and all of that. But remember, he's playing a different game. We're playing a different game. So learn from him. And if you can pretty much clone him and stay invested for that long, you should. But is that the only way to make money? Absolutely not. Sometimes, and even in my life, right, I've made money in positions which I have believed that most people have been exceedingly bearish on. I'll give you an example. In the last month or a month and a half, I am personally invested in a company called the Trade Desk. The Trade Desk did collapse all the way from $140 per share all the way down to what, $50 or even below 50, I'm pretty sure. Let me actually open this. TTD is the ticker for all of you guys that want to know about it. All the way down to, yeah, so we made a high on 2nd of December 2024 at $141.53 per share. Exactly a few months later, 7th of April, during all of this tariff turmoil, the stock hit 41, right? Let me just go ahead and draw a percentage drop. It's not more than, it's going to be more than 50, 60 for sure, right? You're looking at a 70% drop on a company that's leading in digital ad spending. What does the Trade Desk do? The Trade Desk basically gives ad inventory to, it basically meets demand and supply of everything that you watch on your Netflix, Disney, all of these connected TV platforms where you see ads, right? The back end of that system, which basically makes ad buyers and ad sellers meet together, is the trade desk. I do believe that the future of watching television, streaming, all of these things is going to be ad based, the same way as we had broadcast till today. Video on demand is going to be ad based. A lot of that demand that's currently playing out is being done through the trade desk. Trade desk is going to grow globally. It is a large company in terms of it is a $36 billion company. The guy who runs it, Jeff Green, phenomenal growth in the company since 2009. 33, okay, I might be wrong, it's either 33 or 36, but 33 quarters they've been beating their guidance and raising it. By raising it, I don't necessarily mean in terms of EPS only or revenue only, but they've been beating their guidance per se. Last quarter, they missed their guidance by a few million US dollars, right? Which is pocket change for a company the size of 36 billion US. Keep that in mind. And the stock cratered, right? On the day of earnings, it fell because now everybody started realizing maybe this is going to be an ongoing affair and the stock keeps collapsing because the trade desk is now going to meet its guidance. And I was like, you know what, when you're founder led, when you have the drive to run the company and grow it since 2009, when you're a stock that's down 50%, your back's against the wall, founders come out and either they give up or they fight, right? From Jeff Green, from whatever I could understand at that moment, I didn't have to go and sit and understand whether the company would do well and all of that. All I had to see is whether this guy has the grit in him to fight, right? Stock fell 32% in a day. Guys, that is from a high of $122 on the day of earnings to all the way 81. Over the next month, which is 13th Feb, to somewhere around April, the stock fell from 81 all the way down to 41. Now I'm telling you these numbers. Imagine you're not going to be able to live through if you were an investor at 140. But anyways, I was not an investor and I had missed the whole rally. And I kept looking at the company because I liked the concept. There were tailwinds to their business model that would keep growing for years and years to come. So I kept looking at this and I was like, okay, it's now trading at about 41, 42, somewhere around 50, whatever. Before their earnings came out, my bet was, you know what, I don't really think this company is going to, maybe they don't miss their earnings this time and the stock drops 20% more, I'll buy more. So I'm not putting in 100% of what I intended to put in that position any which ways. Stock's down to about 45, 50. I started putting in some money near the 50 levels. And I said, you know what, 140 was the high, the company's doing very well, missed by a few million, maybe a percent, 2%. What if this guy beats his numbers, right? Comes in and does a great number. You know how the amount of people that have sold are going to come back saying, oh, we missed it, maybe it was wrong, we didn't calculate it well, just like how the analysts do. And guess what? On the day of earnings, they come out, beat by wide margins. Their surprise, right, which is basically they were supposed to report an estimate earnings, EPS, of $0.24. They reported a 33-cent profit, right, on their earnings. So the change was a 32% change. Everyone estimated them to make 575 million in estimates in terms of revenue. 575 million is what was estimated. That's year. They made 616. 575, 616. You know what happens when a company beats its revenue, beats its EPS estimates, raises its guidance, keeps going higher? Stocks fly. Here's what happened. On that day, the stock was trading at about 57. Upon trading next day, it hit a high of 75. Today, the stock trades at 75. You're looking at a company that went from 40 to $45 a share, all the way to $74 to $75 a share. That's 50% return in a month and a half. Now, I'm not saying you need to get the bottom. I'm not even saying you need to buy in at 42. I'm not saying you should buy in at 75. I'm saying study the company, study the founders, find companies that are going through some form of a crisis, medium term or short term, and look to buy these companies. They will eventually do well if they are well run. I'm not saying to go and buy a Ford or go and buy an Intel hoping that they are now going to change their entire ball game altogether. Think of a software company, right? Like Trade Desk. It took them 1 quarter to change the whole narrative. I don't see the stock not going to $100 in the next year, or maybe even 150, right? Year and a half. Why not? If the consumer is strong, the economy is strong, what is stopping these guys to continue making money? I don't see a reason at all. Absolutely not. Stocks currently trading between 75 to $80 a share. You could see it way higher. It could keep going higher and higher. You could start seeing it go towards 110. It's got a massive gap all the way up till 117. You know when that gets filled? Maybe the next earnings. And the next earnings, I don't believe, are going to be bad equally. Usually, when a company beats revenue and guidance and keeps going higher and comes out with a great earnings call, they're usually going to go in pretty well and do it, right? You're looking at a company that came out with its earnings on 8th of May, which means they were already a month and a week into the current earnings cycle, the earnings quarter that's currently been going on. Very bullish. Economy has only improved. Consumer sentiment has only improved. You're looking at markets doing better as well. April, May, June, which is going to be great. So when the June quarter ends and in July when they report, don't see a reason why they shouldn't be heading towards a $100 stock. Absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be. Keep that in mind, guys. I mean, this is a company that I'm personally invested in, so all financial disclaimer, all of this is just for education and my opinion. You don't want to put money, don't put money. That's okay. But go ahead and at least understand the way I think or the way I'm looking at companies. You don't necessarily need to agree. I'm just saying have a look at it, see the way things work, see the way I think. If it helps you, join in for the lives. Right? Go ahead and continue to comment on whatever stocks you want, subscribe, put in all of those. Let me see what's happening with the poll, because that's something that I like seeing as well. Let me see what's happening with the poll. How many people do we have there? We got about 5. Nvidia's rally continues. So we got about 4 people out of 5 that still believe that the Nvidia rally continues. And that is something that I truly do believe in, the fact that, right? What's that? Sharik says definitely going to check TTD. Yeah, look at it, bro. It is fairly expensive if you look at it from a valuation perspective. But just the small story that I gave you right now, right? Can it double from here, triple from here? Yeah, possibly can. Buy it from a long-term perspective. It's not a 1-year holding for me or a 3-year holding for me. It's a very long-term holding for me because I do believe that streaming, connected TV, which is basically a lot of us using our platforms in terms of YouTube, Netflix, all of that is going to overtake us actually going down and flipping through channels. And it's happening, right? So as that keeps happening more and more, you are going to start seeing the trade desk doing way better over time, right? I don't see a reason why that's going to stop anytime soon. So have a look at the trade desk. It is something that is worth studying, if not investing. If you're not comfortable to invest in high growth companies, don't. But learn something from it. What's the worst that can happen is you can track the company. Maybe if it falls someday, you might be like, okay, it comes within my valuation perspective and now I can buy it. Do it then, right? This is not a game of whether you're right or wrong. It's the game of when you're right, how much do you make? And when you're wrong, how much do you lose? If at the end of all of it, you're still making money and you're up, you're doing well, right? You could be wrong on 8 out of 10 positions and right on 2. And you could lose all your money on those 8. And you could make 20 times your money on 2 of those. Trust me, you'll be better off than most fund managers in this planet. So, and I'm not here to take anybody's money or invest for anybody, right? I do my own book, my own family money. So I'm just here pretty much helping people out, saying, if you guys want to think differently, this is my opinion. If you like it, try doing something with it. I'm not even saying invest the way I invest, but think of things differently. That's more important. If you can genuinely start thinking of things differently, it's going to help you out, right? So the SEC comes out and dismisses their lawsuit against Binance billionaire founder Changpeng Zhao. So CZ, basically, his lawsuit gets dismissed. It's pretty much going to happen any which ways. We all knew about it. It's something that was going to happen. There was nothing too magical to think about it. One of the things that also happened, like the trade desk does give me some form of a memory as to when everybody went against Meta and Zuck for what he was doing with the metaverse. We were buyers of the metaverse, not the metaverse, but sorry, of Meta stock at that time. I truly didn't believe at that time that we're going to see so much of an effect of the metaverse on the stock. The stock was down 75%. I still knew everybody was using Instagram, everybody was using WhatsApp, everybody was still having at least a Facebook account, dead or not, out there. And that's something that I kept my eyes out on, because it's just the way it is, right? When you get opportunities, if you don't jump, you're not going to make money, right? Anyways, if you guys have any more questions, let's go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to go back and finish a few of my readings. We can keep this on for maybe another few minutes. I'm going to most likely maybe end the poll also back then, and then let's see what happens. Drop in any of your questions if you do have them. It's going to be a fun day in the market because Fridays are usually a lot of fun. I like Fridays, especially considering to see what all happens in the market. At the moment, you're looking at a 39-point drawdown for the US 100, which is nothing, 0.18% down. What's more important to look at what happens to the 10-year bond yield if that starts coming in lower, if the dollar index also fell. So that if the dollar starts strengthening, that's actually a good thing for equity markets at this moment. It's usually not great for companies because a lot of American companies have services outside. They make a lot more money with selling their products outside. So a cheaper dollar helps them. At the moment, nothing to really worry too much about. Everything looks pretty par for the course. Are we on our way to all-time highs? If I had a gun to my head, within 6 months, I do believe you'll see an all-time high. Within a year and a half, 6,600 to 7,000 on the S&P 500. I don't see that not happening, unless and until we have some crazy exogenous shock that goes on in the system. Do I have a take on Rivian? Sorry, buddy. Outside my circle of competence, I stay away from Rivian. I've never studied it too deeply purely because I do see the love that people have for Teslas, and I don't think that's going away. Because most people that buy a Tesla don't hate it, don't seem to ever want to let go of it. And for people to shift, it's like a shift from, for me, like from an iPhone to a Motorola or a BlackBerry, or let's say even a Samsung to that matter of fact. So I'm just not currently that interested in companies. I honestly don't have a take on Rivian, so I don't want to be giving you a take that is not accurate, right? Not something. Sharik says, since you're into tech stock, what about Salesforce? I do look at Salesforce. I do believe they are a great, very well-run company. Do I believe they will compound at great returns of over 20%? I don't believe so. Agentic AI, as well as the way Mark Benioff has been going against companies, I'm not of the view that Salesforce is going to be a 10 bagger in 10 years, or like a 25-30% growth engine. There can be companies that can come to disrupt it, but they're so deeply embedded at this moment that they have a strong moat. I would, in all honesty, I would stay away from something like a Salesforce. I wouldn't personally invest my money. I'd rather go in and look at, let me tell you another stock that I own, right? It's this company called Affirm. It's a buy now, pay later company. I love the management. I love the way they're progressing. I see great headroom for them to grow, right? Like phenomenal headroom for the buy now, pay later industry to keep growing, because they can disrupt credit cards. And that is a humongous market share to take. So maybe look at that. I look at companies where there are tailwinds for the economy, tailwinds for the sector, tailwinds for the industry, and very large tailwinds that the company has in itself. Another one I look at is AI within the insurance space, because I do believe that insurance will get disrupted with AI, and the companies that are able to adopt AI first will be winners with lower, cheaper cost insurance. Because I'll tell you one thing, no one likes insurance payments, no one likes the insurance claim process in America. But if I can start getting a company that can do claim processing quickly, give me a rate that's lower than most other places, I think that's got a word of mouth effect that also keeps happening, right? So look for companies within the AI space. A company that I look at is a company called Lemonade. It has got a lot of hate, but I don't really care about hate. I'm here to look at numbers, and the numbers are improving. They're getting into the car insurance business. They're getting into renters. They're in pet. They're one of the biggest pet insurance companies as well. And that's one of the things in America, right? If you love your pet so much that you're not going to be able to not have insurance on it. So, it's a few things that I look at, right? Not saying necessarily that's the way. Let me see what Kevin's saying. I feel the same, but I believe there's some cheap growth coming or happening currently. Possibly, man. Quite possibly. See, when a stock goes so low, right, it'll be valuable from a cheap perspective. My bets are usually on companies that have near-term misses and rallies post, rather than companies that have fallen so much in price that they might just recover on a bounce, right? So if you're looking at it from a trade perspective, yeah, maybe 15 can go to 25. But in all essence, 15 going to 25 is a $10 return on a $15 stock, so maybe a 70% return. It needs too many things to work in its favor for that return to even work out for you, right? Or for anybody, for that matter of fact. I can rather get a 50% return or a 75% return in a stock that's currently doing well, is in a growth phase. Look at something like a Trade Desk, or look at something else. I mean, none of this is like advice, just have a look. You could possibly see stocks like those giving you a 50-60% return. For me, I rather make a confident 50% return than an erratic 70% return, where I'm very sure in the company, very sure in the growth prospect, very sure in the management that there is a growth outlook that is looking forward the way I want it to be. There is clear-cut process towards that. There are tailwinds working in its favor. I don't want companies that have headwinds and possibly less headwinds, and that's why the stock goes up. That's not my area, because you know what? Like I always say, I want better sleep at night. I've done a lot of this trading for a lot of my life and not had great sleep at night, and I don't want that. And I actually make more money when I sleep well at night. So having peace of mind makes me more amount of money. That's just the way I'm wired. I'm not saying everybody should do that, but it's something that I keep thinking when I do buy stocks is, will this stock and its growth prospects give me better sleep at night? Because if I know the financials are great, if I know that the stock's doing well, if I know that there is growth ahead and the founder will work towards it, management is working towards it, no reason for me to believe that it's not going to happen, right? Could you have this tariff type movements and all of that? That's all par for the course, right? But I'll tell you one thing, in bad circumstances, in bad news, whenever markets start heading lower and lower, you will start seeing companies that are cheap and not in a growth phase or not doing that well get hammered more and more. So can you see a Rivian with a $15 stock go down to 7? Very much possible. Can you see an Apple that is currently at 30% drawdown go down to a 50% drawdown? Possible. But can it go down to a 70% drawdown? Pretty much unlikely. We would be in World War III if that was happening. In all essence, I'm serious about that. Like, it would be very tough for that to happen, right? And I'm pretty sure you guys know. Growth-based companies that are growing well, they can sometimes have momentary falls of 60%, 70%. Capitalize on those is what I would suggest. So for all of you that are like new to this stuff, we go live every day at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. I try doing this on a daily basis, even on the weekends. Make sure you guys tune in, make sure you subscribe, do the bit, and comment on all of your stocks. I mean, I usually don't try taking too long when I try replying to comments. So I like keeping it more interactive. It's a lot more fun for me. It can keep going on. Like I don't even know, but we've been on for about an hour and 34 minutes. So that's saying something, right? We have questions coming in, we answer. I give you my outlook for what the market's going to do tomorrow, a week now, a month now, a year from now. just my thoughts, my outlook. I just want to hold and hopefully give some value, right? I mean, I'm trying to get to 100 subs. I've been doing this for now less than a month, so I want to see if we can get to 100 subs before the month ends, right? I mean, before the month for me on YouTube ends. And I just hope if this is beneficial to everybody, the minimum I expect is to just share this channel with people that you guys expect it can help out. Let's see if we have anything more that's there. Anyways, if you guys have any more questions, we'll keep this on for maybe a few more minutes. If you guys have questions, we'll go over that and then extend. If not, we will be calling it quits in a minute or two, and then we will reconvene maybe in a few hours. If I'm just sitting down and working, and I could then just come YouTube live and then you guys can join, and if you guys are free, find some more information that we can tinker upon. For me, this is pretty much what I breathe, sleep, eat, do all the time. So I'm game anytime to come and talk. We're also on Instagram. I don't usually spend that much time there, but if you guys still want to follow, you can find Signal and Sentiment on Instagram. Go ahead and follow. We're on Twitter as well. I put out the link on Twitter as well, so we can have some people join in. I think the 100-minute mark seems like a good place to end, unless we have questions. Then we keep going. At the moment, Marcus looks pretty. Would you have a guest on ever? I have two of my colleagues that work with me. For sure, we'll bring them on as well. Someday we will. And if I'm not usually a fan of hitting out to other people and then bringing them on. I want this to be a more community type thing where we can have our people come on, and surely we can someday get some of us, once we're past the 3 month, 6 month phase and we still have some people that are together with us, we start building some form of a, for lack of a better word, a cult. We can make it more of a guest type scenario and then bring it on that way. I'm game for all of those things. I mean, for me, what's important is to just give out my opinions and help people out. The more we can do that, for sure. I mean, if Buffett says yes, I mean, for sure, right? I mean, that would be something. That would surely be something. I mean, we might just become the fastest 1 million subscribers in a single day if Buffett comes onto our channel. I'm so sure about that, right? And trust me, you don't want to see my face when he's on, so because I'll have like a million questions to ask him. And none of them would be just finance, right? Most of it would be just life lessons, because we have enough people telling us finance stuff, right? Life lessons would be a lot better. How does he deal with those drawdowns? How does he deal with a lot of other stuff in his life? Yeah, that would be fun. To be able to do that at the age of 94, even sit down and answer questions for 4.5 hours. Like, I know myself, right? Going an hour and a half, 2 hours answering questions when I'm in my late 20s, early 30s is different to when a guy is like 94 and answering questions. So that's something, man. I mean, respect for that man, and I hope he goes on to hit 100 the same way as we go on to hit 100 subscribers. That's the plan, right? Okay, guys, so let's, maybe we have a minute and a half, so the 100 minute sounds better, so we keep going maybe for a minute. You guys have anything more, go ahead. I put out a few shorts as well, so go have a look at those. Some of them that have been coming out recently have been about a firm, so maybe that's something that you guys are interested in. If Diet Coke makes him invincible, is what Sharik says. You know what? In all seriousness, for all that guy eats and drinks, I have no clue how he's able to function at that stage. And maybe that's the trick, man. Maybe we've all been put into this keto and gluten-free and all of that. I don't know how that works, but if I could just eat candy all day and be that smart and that rich, they have a lot more candy in my life, man. Maybe a year later from now, when we're a good 50, 100 people that subscribe and not subscribe, but join into our chats on a daily basis, we could have a meetup as well. That would be fun. a Diet Coke meetup, right? That would be a lot more fun. Maybe in Canada or in America, that would be get everybody together. Maybe have one in Canada and America. Why not? Get everybody together and go ahead, right? Anyways, guys, let's call it quits. Maybe in a few hours, maybe 6 hours, let's join back in if you guys are awake, because I'll be working for sure. I'll do my shit. If you guys have anything, drop in, right? Take care, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll do this tomorrow as well as maybe in a few hours. You guys should make sure you subscribe and get that stupid bell to icon to work for you. And I'm currently in Southeast Asia, Kevin. So this place kind of works for me. The Middle East is a little too hot right now for me. So I'm in Southeast Asia at the moment. Keep flipping few places here and there. But in July, I should be in Singapore. So anyone that's in Singapore, we can meet up. Anyways, take care, guys. If I do put out a link, I'll drop it in, and then we can get things going from there. Okay, have a good night for all of you guys. Take care. See you soon. Bye.